Hi everyone, it's Jen. Welcome back to my garden. I am a home gardener here in Western New York, Zone 6B, and today I'm just getting out into my yard and continuing with my spring cleanup and just getting ready for the summer season, the garden season. I have to admit, I feel very behind. I just feel like our spring has not really popped yet, and we have had a lot of cold weather, a lot of rain, which isn't, atypical for our area, but I feel like every year, it just gets a little bit longer and longer. But actually, I think about it, and last year we're probably like, I don't know, maybe a couple weeks behind where we were last year. I remember my tulips were already blooming and looking beautiful, and my pear tree in the front yard was already, bloomed and open, and my spireas were already budding up and leafing up and looking beautiful. So that's not the case this year. It's taken a little bit more time. Things are moving along a little bit slower, and so I just have to adjust to that change. So even though I feel like there's a lot of things still to do, I'm just going to take it garden bed by garden bed, one day at a time, one step at a time, and eventually we'll get there. Can anybody else relate to that? So I'd love for you to join me today. Join me as I take a look around and see what I can do, see what I can get accomplished. I'd like to check on my tulips today. I have tulips that have been in my shed for quite some time, and I haven't checked on them in quite a while. So I do want to check on my tulips. I want to prune my climbing rose just a little bit, see if I can get that done today. I'd also like to check on my winter sowing jugs, and I know that there are a couple of things that I could plant out into the landscape if I desire to do so today. And yeah, let's just get after it and see what else we can find along the way. I also have a bunch of pansies and violas that I have left over from when I planted up my living wreath. So I want to get those into pots. I think I'm just going to put them on my front porch. I have several pots. Some, I can mix them in with the tulips, or I can just plant them by themselves, and that'll just add to the brightness of my spring porch. Okay, I think we need to bring these tulips outside. I haven't checked on these in quite a while. Ooh, just hit my head on a bike. It looks like we need to bring them out. Oh no, these are flopping. Bring them out and give them some water. These are looking okay right here. Let's do that first thing. Most of my tulips are looking pretty good, but I do have a couple of containers that have flopped, and they definitely need some water. So I'm going to bring everything out now. Probably should have brought those tulips out a little bit earlier and watered them a little bit sooner, but we'll do the best we can, and I'm sure I'll get some beautiful blooms from my tulips. Well, here are my tulips, and these are the ones that were in the garage that I just brought out. These were looking pretty strong the last time I checked on them, but now they're flopping, and I think it's from a lack of water. So I'm going to give these tulips a quick drink. I think they're in desperate need of it. I don't want to get the soil splattering all over the patio here. Need to be a little gentler with these smaller ones because they're filled to the brim. Yeah, I didn't water these really, and I thought I could get away with it, but it's kind of coming back to bite me. So let's give these a good watering. And I also think they were in the shed a little bit too long. I needed to bring them out so they could get a little bit more sunlight. Let's hoping they rebound for me. This is my front porch right now, and I do have 2 tulip pots here that are looking great, and they have been out for quite some time, and they've been getting rainwater, so they look fantastic. And these ones in the back I brought out from my garage just recently, and they're kind of flopping, and they definitely need some water. So I'm going to water everything right now. And I also have a pot over in the corner there, and I also have another little pot of tulips right up there. Nothing's blooming yet, so let's see what we can do to make these look a little bit better. I see some blooms on this pot right in the corner here. Yes, I do. Aw, how beautiful. Let's give these guys a little bit of water, but oh, they're starting to open up. That's wonderful. This is one of my Generous Gardener climbing roses, and you can see it's just starting to leaf out. And I'm just going to take a look at it, and if there's anything dead or diseased or damaged in any way, I am going to be pruning those parts. This is a new rose. It was only planted last year, so there's not a whole lot of growth just yet, but yeah, I am going to be doing the pruning, and then I will be fertilizing with some rose tone, and then I will top dress with some compost. I do have land and sea compost that I also have to get from my garage. Here is the other Generous Gardener climbing rose that I have on the other side of the pergola arbor. This one is a little bit bigger, and I think it's been looking good. I'm just going to come around to the other side here. There's a lot of green growth here. There's a lot of main canes starting to grow up. I do see some dead growth in there that I'll have to clip back. But for the most part, it's looking good. I'm also going to just weed in this general area before I top dress with some compost. There's a couple of big weeds here too. I am just going to run in and get some alcohol and clean my pruners before I get started, because that really is best practice, especially for your roses. I want to start with a clean set of tools. So I'm just going to go get the alcohol. I just have some 70% isopropyl alcohol, and just brought a little paper towel out here. And I'm just going to clean my pruners here. I want to open them up too. Oops. I want to open my pruners up. And I cleaned these in the fall, but they could definitely use another deep clean. They're pretty filthy. Maybe I can put that on my spring to-do list. I'm doing a second round here just because I want to make sure these are extra clean, because I prune everything with these Felco 2s. I just want to make sure we have clean tools to begin with. Not sterile. They're not sterile, but they're clean. Okay. And I don't have rose gloves. That's one thing I do want to get, is rose gloves. So I just have my Felco pruning gloves. But these are actually pretty thick on the inside. So I think I'll be okay. Okay, so I'm just looking at this rose, and what I am noticing I do see some crossing branches starting out already here, but I do see a lot of main canes coming up. Let's see. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. It looks like I have 5 main canes. I'm not sure if this one is considered a main cane. That could be a main. I think that is a main cane because I see some lateral canes coming off of that. I know I see what I want to do first off. I'm going to get right down in here and clip this part off. Let me get a hold of it. And so you can see here that that's dead on the end here. It's brown, nothing going on the inside. So I cut that part off. This one here is kind of crossing with this main one, and I kind of like how this one is looking. It's pretty, let me lift the camera up, it's pretty strong. So I think I want to keep this one, and I'm going to come down. I'm actually going to cut it all the way at the base here. I had to move my camera a little bit here. So I'm clipping this one at the base because it's going to get right into, it was kind of crossing with this big branch here, and it also had some dead on the top. And I do think I need my pop-up bag. I'm going to go grab that. I did just clip this one right here because it was kind of rubbing up against another one. I am going to get rid of this one right here because it's kind of growing back towards the fence. And I don't want to do that right now. So I'm going to clip that one off. And do have a little bit of congestion going on here. So I'm going to clip this guy down. Let's see if I can bend that just a little bit down to the ground here. And he also had some dead growth. I don't know if you can hear the wind, but it is awfully windy. So I may have to pop in and do a voiceover at times, but I decided to remove this one too. It had a little bit of dead growth on the end there. It did have a lateral cane that looked okay, but actually it did have some dead growth here and here as well. So just clipping those 2 things out. All right, so in terms of main canes, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I believe this is also going to be a main cane. I'm just going to give this a snip back to the first bud that's leafing out. Everything is looking pretty good at the bottom here. I'm going to come in with some rose tone and then some compost. Before I do that though, I'm just going to be looking at the ends here. Actually, it looks pretty good, but I am going to prune it back just a little bit, maybe to about here. Now, I am new to roses, so be kind and gentle with me. Okay, I can't let this camera go because it keeps blowing away, so let's see. I'm going to see if I can move this cane underneath here, and I don't want it to be rubbing against this one, so I'm going to see if I can fix that. Another thing that I'm going to be doing is just zip tying it to the pergola arch here. And one of the things that, oh look, I'm just noticing too, see right here, there's some damage. I'm probably going to cut back to just above this bud here because there's some damage, because I think these two are rubbing up against each other. I think this is one of the challenges of a climbing rose on a pergola arbor. And please chime in if you have, any knowledge or experience with this. But I know that for a climbing rose, you're supposed to train it laterally, horizontally, but it's a challenge on this type of structure because there's not a whole lot of room. So the way I see it is you can have a few main canes that kind of go up, and you can train them as best you can horizontally, because you can't train them all horizontally, otherwise they'll be rubbing up against each other unless I'm missing something. And then the ones on the outside, like this one here, I can start almost training this way, and maybe at some point it could be trained along this fence here, or even, along the ground and into the arborvitae, although we're having some issues with those arborvitaes currently, and you can see they're kind of dead at the bottom. We had a watering issue when we first planted them. My husband thought that I was watering, and I thought that he was watering. So they went a long period after they were initially planted without being watered. So I'm getting sidetracked, but we did, fertilize those. We put some Evergreen fertilizer down. We trimmed the bottom, and we've been watering them quite well. So we're hoping they rebound. But getting back to my rose, my climbing rose, I was, thinking of training a couple of the main canes horizontally in this direction to sort of weave in and around this Japanese maple, which is this first tree, and my evergreen, and along the fence. Same thing on the other side here. Let me just take you around to the other side. And then I would train the other lateral main canes over this way, and they can kind of train this way and along the fence there. But it's impossible to train all of your main canes in a horizontal way up this structure. So if I'm missing something, please chime in. So I'm going to do the best I can. I am going to try and train a couple of them, kind of curve them and train them laterally right now and zip tie them to the structure. I'll show you when I'm done what I did. I changed my mind. I didn't like how that one was looking too close to this one here. So it was sort of wanting to go in this direction anyway, so I zip tied it right here. Even though it's going up right now, I think once it passes this guy here, I can sort of give it a turn in this direction. Just kind of clearing any debris out of the bottom there. That is important for your rose. You don't want any congestion towards the base, because that increases your risk of disease. Okay. It says 1 1/4 cups of rose tone around the drip line of each plant. I'm just going to eyeball it. I think it's about 1 1/4 cup. Around the drip line. And I'm scratching it in right away here because it's pretty windy. And I'm going to go get my compost and top dress it with some compost. I'm also going to water that in. Using some organic land and seed compost. That is what I have today. Good dose of this compost here. water that in. Thanks for joining me in my garden today. I spent an awful lot of time just looking at my climbing rose and, pruning it and taking care of it. So I really didn't have time for much else for this video. Hopefully next time we'll be able to check out my winter sown jugs and start to transplant those out into the garden. I hope you are all having a wonderful spring and enjoying time in your own gardens. And I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Have a great day.